there was this Swedish guy who actually cut off people's ears and fed it to them. And then he started doing Bitcoin wrench attacks because he heard, that was the next thing. And if they even think there's like a 10% chance you're hiding something, it's worth trying, right? It's just economically, it's worth doing the violence just to see. Because you get a couple of Bitcoin, but what if this guy's got 20 Bitcoin in a multisig? Like, you've got the decoy wallet or something. So if there's a suspicion there's a decoy wallet, any of those kind of things, that's when the violence can start. We cannot have the holders of Bitcoin be so vulnerable.
Welcome to Honest Money. I'm your host, Anya, and today's episode is brought to you by Hardblock. Joining me today on Honest Money is Australian cryptographer Lloyd. Lloyd is also the founder of Frostsnap. So today we're going to be talking about the Coldcard case. We'll talk a little bit about wrench attacks in Bitcoin, multisig, as well as the solution that Frostsnap provides. Welcome to the show, Lloyd.
G'day, Anya. Thanks for having me.
I just had a little flashback to the time that I met you, which was Bitcoin Pizza Day back in Sydney, I think in 2024.
Okay, wow.
Yep. Do you remember that?
It's the good old days. Where were we? At a pizza
the
joint?
Vapiano pizza
Yes.
place in Sydney.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I think I remember.
I was a noob.
I
But
think I
yeah,
remember you. You were just like very freaked out about your superannuation. You were just going all in onto Bitcoin. That's what I remember. In your super, and you were like visibly afraid whenever.
yep. Yeah. But speaking of afraid,
But now you're in a bear market and you're totally relaxed, which is really cool.
yeah, it helps to have proper Bitcoiners around you at a time like this. But I'd love for you to tell my audience about physical safety in Bitcoin, because this is something that has been coming up quite a bit lately, and they're called wrench attacks.
Yeah, this is obviously an old kind of thing. People have been storing their wealth in their home for a while or on their person, and violence can happen to them. People rob them. I have this favorite factoid of mine that actually the very first written text that that archaeologists have been able to recover, it's called the Instructions of Shurupak, and it has on it, it's basically what it is wisdom literature. So it's like from father to son, explaining all the ways a man should be. And one of the first pieces of advice is he says, don't wish for the money chest. Don't break into your neighbor's house and try and steal their money. And so what it indicates is that this problem is literally as old as civilization. People have been sneaking into their neighbor's house, or using violence to go and just extract wealth from others rather than building wealth themselves, because at some point it just becomes much easier, more economical to just go into someone else's property. And of course, with the massive increase or wealth transfer to Bitcoiners, Bitcoin is often stored in their houses. So it's not just wealth transfer to individuals, it's wealth transfer to specific locations and people's houses, right? Which is very crazy when you think about it. And so those locations are highly desirable. And what's actually interesting, maybe in the context in the West, is the crime rate has really been dropping. This kind of crime has really been dropping for a long time. So it's not like we're in a period where there's lots of robberies and home invasions and things like that going on, and then this Bitcoin has come on top. We're in a period where they've just been dipping and there's not that many criminals doing robberies, because what are you going to rob? Like the 60-inch TV that maybe costs $1,000 or whatever. It's no longer attractive. People don't have that much jewelry or things going on inside their homes. Much better like security systems, webcams, sort of things that'll catch you. Much cheaper, right? Doorbell cams, all these kind of things. So the crime rate has really, in that respect, has really been going down. But then eventually the economics of it, right, adjust. The incentives will kick in. If you're someone with tens of millions of dollars sitting on in their house, and somebody knows that, uh, you are a target. And it happens sporadically. It happens in different countries, but you can see now, like it has in the last year or so, it's consolidated around France, right? So that's where you had like now a permanent criminal expertise, I guess, in doing this kind of attack, despite the French government trying very hard to stop them. Although they do a lot of things to encourage them as well. They do a lot of things to encourage it in terms of KYC data and tax collection data. That is one of the main problems, is getting the information, because there's lots of houses out there, but how many of them actually have Bitcoin in them? If you can narrow it down, then it's just like walking over and picking up money if you do some of the basics right. And so that's where we're at the moment. We're in a bear market. Things have cooled down a little bit. So it's sort of like price leads these things. The price lead goes up, and then people start doing them, and then by the time the bear market is over, they're really into the swing of it. And while the price is falling, they're doing it frequently. But now the price has been low for a little while, so it's cooled down a bit. But you can imagine how much worse if France it could be if we have another bull market right now and it goes 5x what it was the last one. Then France won't be the only country, I expect, having this kind of embedded criminal organized crime syndicates that actually specialize in doing that kind of attack.
Yeah, that is really concerning. And I'm sure you heard that, Francis Pouliot from Bull Bitcoin is, I guess, taking the French government to court over this, trying to advocate for not centralizing that data. And I believe the same thing is happening in Australia, like it's being rolled out by the CAF, where they're trying to, I guess, pull this information into one data set, making it, I guess, easier for criminals to hack. And that's just really concerning because obviously we have Australian Bitcoiners, and yeah, we wouldn't want that kind of thing coming here.
Yeah, well, so far we've done very well. So in avoiding these attacks, there has not been any serious ones in the last few years. And so we want to keep it that way. And so now it looked like we won't be able to keep it that way if the government keeps doing this kind of things, but unless we actually take action ourselves to make ourselves unattractive targets. So they look down the list and they see you and they're thinking, nah, I'm not going to bother with that for some reason, right? And so that's kind of what our product Frostsnap is about. You saw Trezor just today had leaked like all the addresses and full name and addresses of all the people they've shipped Trezors to. And that includes the people who are fleeing from the recent Coldcard thing. So out of the frying pan into the fire. And now what we want, we obviously don't want to leak anyone's address. Although it is true, like you got to understand, like you have to tell a third party who does shipping where someone's address is if they deliver it to their home, right? I mean, it's just there's no physical way to get it to them otherwise. So you have to know their address if you want it delivered. And that's every hardware wallet company has to deal with that. The saving grace in our case, though, is that we are delivering you a product that will not exist just in your house, right? So with the Trezor, you expect it's delivered to this house and it probably stays in that house, right? So we deliver several devices. So our product is a multisig wallet only, pretty much. And so we're delivering you several devices, and they're going to be in different locations. There may be one in your house, but they'll be in different locations. You won't be able to spend the money from your house. So when you look at, if you're looking down that list and you know someone has a Frostsnap, then or multisig in general, right? You can probably say that I'm going to skip that name on the list and go down to the next one, right? Because that's what we're trying to do as Australians, I guess, or as anyone. We want to have our names on those lists, not be the ones that are pursued. And it should be, it's one thing that may be really interesting about these kind of attacks is that they are not really geographically necessarily co-located as much as you might think. France has obviously had a huge swath of them. There's French criminals targeting French people. But before that, the really sophisticated attacks that got most of the money and were sort of repeated were often international. So people would fly in on a tourist visa, they have a target, they do so, like they dress up as an Uber driver, whatever, or Uber delivery person, whatever, and they go and they surveil that target. They go in, and do the home invasion attack, where they'll usually the reason it's so international is the person who's coordinating it isn't even in the same country, right? So the person who's not coordinating it has like an AirPods or whatever in their ear, and they're just talking to the people on the actual ground who are cheap and disposable. And they're the ones who are swiping the money. They're the ones who are getting the seed words. They're the ones who's providing the address that the money we transferred to in during the attack. And so they hold all the money, and they don't have to flee the country. They're safe wherever they are. And so you just send a team to that country, or you pick up people who are already in that country, which is often the case, but like lower income people, like low level criminals, just sort of train them a bit, how to do it, and then the low level criminals often don't even know who the person is who's they're talking to, right? They just hear it through they get recruited through some messaging platform. And so that's kind of how it works. And so you don't really have to have a homegrown Australian criminal scene for this to happen in Australia. That's the main point. Though you can see that it does help if if your country's own criminal scene starts adopting these attacks, because they are wildly profitable. If you have the data, there's like incredible one night of your life and you'll never work again, and it's very hard to track and catch them. Or you have a decent chance of not being caught, right? Yeah, those are that makes it worse. But you can even if you don't have a homegrown scene, international people can fly over. They have their flights booked already, and they just leave on their tourist. They come in on tourist visa, leave on the tourist visa, and it's done. By the time you untie yourself, they have left and call the police. They've left the country, basically.
Quick one for the Aussies listening. Hardblock is offering a $10 sign-up discount right now. And if you're with another exchange, ask yourself this: are they Australia's longest running Bitcoin-only exchange? Because if not, maybe it's time to switch. Head to hardblock.com.au/join/honest money and start stacking sats today. Yeah, and that's the attacks where the person doesn't get physically hurt. But from my understanding, there have been many instances where someone was physically hurt as part of this attack.
Yeah, there are many. I mean, it goes like there's a whole range, right? The problem is like what I would say there is less physical harm the more professional that they are, and the more cooperative the victim is, with it. So they're often, in criminal organizations, you don't get the smartest people, and you get violent people who are willing to do this kind of work. And often the violence is manifestation. It's not like part of a strategy. It's just like, I'm here to be violent. That's my job, whatever. And then, I mean, the craziest example I have of this is not a guy, who's not really even trying to get money. Some of the criminals, just do it for the love of the game, right? So there was this Swedish guy who actually cut off people's ears and fed it to them. And then he started doing Bitcoin wrench attacks because he heard, that was the next thing. So he was put in jail for 4 years and they let him out. And he started doing Bitcoin wrench attacks. So I don't know. It was things going on in Sweden with the criminal justice system. But that's sort of like, you have these crazy people who are like psychopaths who get into violent crime, and they will get into wrench attacks just because Bitcoin wrench attacks, because that's the thing that's going. But that's not likely. You're like highly unlikely to be targeted by that person. You're really going to be more likely in the future to be targeted by well-organized people. Because this is how Darwinian selection works, right? It's not guaranteed. You may be targeted by, you may be the one targeted by the idiots, and the idiots come in and they be violent, and then they all get arrested. That happens it's still happening like that. But I would be thinking more about how to protect myself against sophisticated people, rather than the like crazy people who just don't know what they're doing and they're out for a laugh and they have no idea, they have no self-worth. Those protecting against those people, they may harm you, but usually it is to extract something from you, right? I mean, that's if they go in and you just like hand them your seed words, they're not gonna do it and then take all your money, and they're convinced that that's all your money. They're not gonna take anything from you. The thing that the violence usually comes in when they think you're hiding something, right?
Mm.
And if they even think there's like a 10% chance you're hiding something, it's worth trying, right? It's just economically, it's worth doing the violence just to see. Because you get a couple of Bitcoin, but what if this guy's got 20 Bitcoin in a multisig? Like you got the decoy wallet or something. So if there's a suspicion there's a decoy wallet, any of those kind of things, that's when the violence can start. But you think about it from a criminal's perspective, it's not like criminal, and I don't want to ever get the impression that criminals are rational economic actors and they just follow incentives. They're humans with emotions, and they're often emotionally not well managing themselves. And so, but if you think about it from their perspective, and you keep them calm as the victim, you be cooperative. They don't want to be in there for very long. In your house, they do not want to be in your house for very long. They want to get out of your house. And so that's, if you can help them get the money and help them get out, they'll probably take that help without any violence.
Mm. That's actually an interesting point because I did observe in the Coldcard hack how high the fees were. And is that because you believe that was because they were rushing to extract the Bitcoin as fast as possible? They weren't trying to go on the lowest fee structure.
In this, yeah, I mean, well, it's just like this. The guys were still in the Coldcard hack. I mean, this is obviously a totally different criminal, different criminal world, right? This is the guy in his chair or girl in their chair at home, and they're using AI and poking it around at different things, and they poke it at this repo and they struck gold, right? They don't know. What's clear is this person who's attacking the first attacker on that very first sweep did not know Bitcoin too well and did not write the software themselves, and they just wrote very hacky sort of software by AI agents sort of thing that that took the money in a very peculiar way. And so they didn't want to worry about what the fee rate should be. They were not maximizing. I mean, they're getting 1,000 Bitcoin in a few minutes. So do you worry about paying like 10 times the fee? Do you worry about paying a $20 fee per transaction? Because they actually lost money on several of their transactions. If you look at their transactions, they lost money on several of them because they spent like a UTXO that has almost no money in it with a high fee and just burnt money, but it didn't really matter in the overall, right? It's not worth them spending an extra few minutes to get the software right and to exclude those things. Yeah. So that was not emotion. That was just, that's what the AI gave them, and they went go, right?
Yeah, but do you want to tell my audience? I know the story, but do you want to mention why you know this, like this level
Oh,
of detail?
I think, yeah, I reproduced the attack. So I went and ran the attack just recently, just so I could see everything on chain because I thought it would be interesting. I think some other people, there's a guy called Praveen on X who's also published a blog post today, and he's also done something similar. And so, yeah, what that lets you do is stop speculating. You don't have to do chain analysis as much to see what's going on. You just get all the wallets and you sort of roll it up in software into one giant wallet, and you see yourself getting drained, sort of thing. You just watch it getting drained over the time period and get to see a bit more detail in what's happening, and you get to see the behavior of those wallet software that was stealing your money. And so that's how I can sort of see it. I probably post it on X or something in the coming days so other people can take a look. But it's quite an interesting data set. So it starts off with there's clearly one guy who starts it off. And the software is, gets only about half the Bitcoin that's there. The software behaves very strangely. Then that's about 9 p.m. New York time. And then that carries on until the next day, about 1 p.m. New York time, 1:30. Kevin Lloyd from Wizard Sardine who's been in contact with some of the victims of this 1,000 Bitcoin, uh, he starts saying that something's really, really wrong. I think initially he gets some pushback on that or whatever, but nothing really changes until Coldcard admits the problem. So once Coldcard admits the problem on X, like that literal minute, like things go ballistic, and then the coins just start flowing out of this wallet, of this like aggregate wallet. And then I think like I think there's another attack which starts at around that. So Coldcard admits at around almost 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. New York time. And then the attack starts again at about 1:48 a.m. or around there, New York time. So it's, 8 o'clock to 2 a.m. is how long it took people to start reproducing it. So I think it's a different guy. So I think it's someone who's like written new software and is like, that's how long it takes. So it's taking 4 or 5 hours just to make the basic attack once you get notified that there is a problem on this thing. And then I think it might be a few people also. It sort of looks a bit noisy around there. It's not just necessarily one person, but like a few people. The first guy takes 4 hours, the next guy takes 4.5, and it's kind of like that, right? So it's like there's a few new players coming in, but they don't get that much money. Their scan doesn't find much new money that hasn't been taken by the previous guy. I think they keep iterating and trying to get a little bit more. And they seem to go quiet overnight, though I'm not 100% sure. They may assume that everything's been taken, but by the next day, there is definitely another attacker. But this is a bit difficult to know because obviously you can't distinguish between an attacker and a normal person sweeping their funds, right? It's only because the attackers use weird software written by AI in a short term that you can sort of distinguish them, but only those attackers. There's some attacker who actually wrote the software properly, which would also make it easier to hide, so they have an incentive to sort of write it properly. They have an incentive to make their coins look like a normal sweep. That could be happening, but actually I don't think so. I think that because of the way the times look, everything sort of cools down around 4 a.m. Right? So the attackers cool down, even people withdrawing of like sort of, they're still doing it, still happening, but it's a trickle, right? It's like a Bitcoin every hour sort of rate, or a couple of Bitcoins every hour. And so that's like a few plebs, who are up all night, trying to do their things, and people in other time zones. But during that time, the New York time, it's really cooling down until you get to like, until you get to the morning, like 7 a.m., and then it starts kicking up again. Right? So 7 a.m., people are waking up to this news because it came out, Coldcard admitted it around 8 p.m. People have turned off their screen. They don't use their screen time thing to turn off their social media. They start getting messages from their friends, and then it's off to the races again, and everyone starts withdrawing, and that's when a lot of it disappears. And I don't think it would be the attackers. Why would the attacker go to sleep? It seems like someone's going to sleep there. And it's probably the honest people who are trying to get their money out go to sleep. But then, you can definitely see another attack happening at 5 a.m. I know this is 5 p.m. on the 31st of July. That's on the next day. And there's another little attack that someone's found an extra bit of Bitcoin that hasn't been touched. And then the sort of same thing happens until the next day. 8 a.m. the day after that, which is August 1st, someone finally takes all the money that's left. And that's done in a more sophisticated way because the person who took all that money had good quality software that just took all the money in one transaction, sort of thing. I mean, I don't want to say it's good quality software because probably the smart thing to do is to spend it, sweep each wallet individually to make yourself look like a normal user. But they had a more sophisticated approach that could index all the wallets independently and take all the money in one go, which none of the attackers before seemed to have. But once again, it's sort of speculation. there about which one is attackers and which ones are not. But I say there's at least 4 different attackers. That's what I would say.
At least 4. Wow. And do you think they're US based?
Um, I th- in terms of time, I think it could be. I mean, there are some attacks going on at 4 a.m. That's kind of like the 4 a.m. after the news broke, and so that seems like that's just people like it broke at 8 p.m. So people staying up all night. I mean, there were many people staying up all night who were not even affected, right? That was just so transfixed by this thing. I can imagine if you're trying to actually take the money, you're willing to stay up to 4 a.m. So that, and then the others, yeah, were all in like sort of normal, uh, normal hours for the US. So it does seem it might be an American-based one. To get I mean, the first attack starts at 9 p.m. according to my data. 9 p.m. EDT. Not yeah, about 9 p.m. So that's probably that seems like normal, right? It could be. I mean, that's Eastern time, right? Western time. I don't know what where things are at. So that's it seems like it could be a New York, American based time zone. It could also
Yeah.
be anywhere in the world, right? Obviously, but at
Yeah,
least the
true.
first and also there's 4 different attackers, but none of them you can exclude from being from America. But they could also be from Europe. Um, as well. Like maybe the final one looks a bit more like European because it starts at 8:30. It's like right in the morning in New York time, which you would expect it's more like in the afternoon, or middle of the day for the Europeans. So yeah.
But do you believe that any of these attackers could be white hatters, like trying to, they got ahead of the bad guys? Or is that,
I heard some speculation about that. If any of them were white hatters, I think it would definitely be the last one, and they took about 100 Bitcoin. Um, I don't know. I have no idea. I had some speculation about that. I heard some people white hatting for other people, but yeah, I would be keen to know if someone has admitted to this. I haven't seen anyone admit that they took these 100 Bitcoin
yeah,
for the purposes of um refunding people. It is very tricky to refund, actually, much harder than I initially thought. It's you're gonna have to do a KYC process basically with that person because the entropy is very bad on this Coldcards, and so really even people buying Coldcard wallets could get the same wallet. So there's really no way to prove like, yeah, my Coldcard is the one that generated this terrible entropy. There's a little bit of nuance that you can prove a little bit, but not much. It's really not much at all.
yeah. And the authorities, have you heard, are they doing anything?
Uh, no, I don't know about that. I've not, I expect that people have been reporting it to law enforcement. I've heard Praveen, this guy done this analysis, he reckons that they were using they may have used paid services to do the blockchain sort of scanning for them or something. I didn't follow exactly why he thought that yet, but if that's the case, then maybe you have a thing there. I mean, you would imagine you couldn't imagine that it was someone who if someone was looking up all these addresses like on a blockchain explorer before they got taken, then that's a good IP fingerprint, maybe. Like the software is looking it up because they have to do that. In order to actually find whether the thing has money, there's a certain pattern that they will reach out to the software, like the blockchain explorers to check because this person doesn't have their own Bitcoin node probably, right? So they're going to reach out on the internet to find out whether an address has money or doesn't have money before they take it. Um, and so that's the hope, I guess, is just trying to IP locate or maybe they're signed up to something to get this data to try and get that person. And I hope that they do. Obviously, hope this money can get returned somehow.
Yeah. But what do you think is kind of the biggest lesson that we've had from this recent cold card attack, like in terms of what we should be doing with our custody moving forward?
Yeah. So there's the 2 ways to answer it is like what should I be doing right now? And I don't think that if you're a Bitcoin user, you need to do anything. Um, Unless you were a cold card user, which you need to go back in time. The the thing that you should be aware of, like the information that you need to know, is that if you should not be confused on this point, hardware wallets generally are trusted third parties. Same way an exchange is a trusted third party, right? So if you think you're like, I'm withdrawing from this exchange onto my hardware wallet, oh, great, I've gotten rid of trusted third parties. No, because that manufacturer is a trusted third party of your hardware wallet. And it's much worse than you think. Like, you might think, oh, if I follow these guides and I generate my own seed, or I do my own dice rolls. And that's what a lot of people have come out thinking about this, because people who did their own dice rolls and had their own passphrase did not get attacked. Okay, they did not lose their money. And so people are thinking that that's really the lesson. Unfortunately, that's just the peculiarities of this particular bug. It's not actually a fundamentally the bug could have been different, right? So that everyone who did dice rolls lost all their money, right? Because they didn't do the dice roll entropy correctly, and they skipped all the other entropy in case of the dice rolls. And there have been people who lost all their money doing dice rolls on Coldcard because they'll let you do a single dice roll.
Yeah, I did hear there was one instance where someone did a single dice roll and got sweeped. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm saying that people just did a dice roll and that was the whole wallet. This is before this attack.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah. So I'm like there was some guy on Reddit who said like, hey, I did a dice roll and like, what, my money's gone. What's going on? And he says, yeah, you rolled a 6.
Yeah.
Because you just reverse engineered from the single dice roll. For some reason, the interface let you put in a single dice roll. So I want to be clear, I want to just like point that out. But okay, yes, you could make the interface correct and make sure that people actually try and make sure people do the dice rolls. Though definitely people just click different numbers also, not real dice rolls. And so anyway, the real headline is, I want you to know, there's this thing called Dark Skippy, which is the attack we developed at darkskippy.com. You can see the video, and it's got someone who chose their own words totally outside the hardware wallet and loaded them in, and they still lost all their money. And it's because even though the device is using those seed words, and those seed words don't exist at the time that you created them on anywhere else, that device, even though it's fully air-gapped, can send that thing over, because they can send transactions. I mean, they send those devices are signing devices. They send signatures. And unfortunately, the way Bitcoin signatures work, they can have little messages in them that no one else can see, which is a big surprise to many people, right? No one thinks, if you think about a signature when you write on paper, it's very hard to leave a little cryptic message inside there, right? But unfortunately, the digital signatures we use in Bitcoin, but not all digital signatures, you have a little space to put messages in there. And so you can send those messages out, unfortunately. And so no matter what dice rolling you do, whatever, the thing is still a trusted party. It's still possible to do this attack. It's pretty practical. And now you've got AI and stuff. Like, you can see that the main thing stopping people from finding and doing this attack is just simply the effort required to find it, and then effort required to do it, right? It's like, even if I find such a thing, I'm going to have to spend a week writing code and stuff, and to get this whole thing started, and I have to like probably hire some GPUs from the cloud. And that's another thing, like you were mentioning, what could we find this person? Maybe the people like started using GPUs. Maybe they used a remote GPU to do it. They wouldn't necessarily need to. They could have done it on their laptop or their laptop's GPU. But there's stuff like that. So the effort is just gone to zero, right? So if you look at attacks, like even sophisticated attacks like Dark Skippy, the effort is going to zero to do this, right? And so if you think that if you're worried about this hardware wallet company being malicious and taking your money, well, I mean, just don't use it, because you can do this. Now, there is some hardware wallets that do not allow you to do these attacks. I'd say the most comprehensive in this is our hardware wallet, where we do not allow the devices to generate your seed by themselves. We don't allow them to sign we do not allow them to either put any messages inside the signature, because we randomize them. And so we have the comprehensive protection against both those things. There are some hardware wallets that do protect against the signature thing if you use them with the companion software. So those would be the Bitbox and the Jade. If you use them with the companion software and you plug them in via USB, like not using PSBTs, they will do this protocol and make sure that the signatures don't have messages in them. But neither of those two do it for the key generation. So for the key generation, you will have to go and roll dice and do, or choose seed words or something to get it, and then verify that those things were actually loaded correctly. It's not just enough to just generate the seed words. You have to load them in and trust then the device is using those seed words and not using some other seed words already held by an attacker. And so you have to verify that the addresses you actually receive money to are actually from those seed words you gave it. So that's the other trick. And so I just want to the thing you have to know, really, unless you really want to take those steps to buy a Jade or buy a Bitbox or buy our product, and do what's necessary to remove the trust from the device, you are just going to have to acknowledge that these devices are trusted third parties, and they may be very good trusted third parties. I would have said that until this thing happened. I would have said, hey, Coldcard, or Bitbox or any of these things, you don't have to worry at all really about these guys attacking you. Luckily we have great companies in the Bitcoin space. They have proof of work in their brands. But yes, in theory, they are trusted third parties, and they can take all your money if they ship you a bad device. And there's almost no way for you to check that. And people don't like that news, but I always try to temper it, try to say, no, you don't have to really worry, because they're good companies, right? So they're better companies than Exchange, and they have a one-off window to attack you, right? Exchange can fail at any day in the last 5 years, you lose all your money, right? Because as soon as that if they have a millisecond or whatever it takes time to where their security fails, then all the money's gone. As long as they shipped you a good device initially, then your money will stay secure for the whole time, unless you upgrade it to a malicious hardware firmware, which some people did in this case, right? So it's that's the thing. The window for the attack is much worse on a hardware wallet. So you should be, in theory, and they should be a good company, and they should not be trying to attack you because they're in Bitcoin for a long time. Why would they want to steal people's Bitcoin? In this case, they probably were not trying to steal it. I definitely don't think that this was a malicious attack. I think it was just a mistake, a completely insane mistake. And so, but if you want to protect yourself against malicious hardware wallet manufacturers, you have to be. It's very hard. That's basically the headline. Our product, we do a really good job on this, I think, but it's still not still not perfect.
Need a way to sign, verify and secure your Bitcoin? Australia's one-stop shop for Bitcoiners has you covered. From signing devices, nodes and backup solutions to Bitaxes, Decor and apparel. Visit shopbitcoin.com.au.
So our product cannot leak the seed words to an attacker in any way, but you can always have this problem where the wallet can just say it's a signing device. So what we reduce it to a signing device, if you put all these protections in, the wallet just becomes a sign device. So it becomes like a pen that can just sign the transaction, right? There's still things it can do in that scenario. What it can do is just, I refuse to sign. I've magically run out of ink to sign this message now, unless the transaction sends this guy, a bunch of money, right? So and then you get coerced sort of by the device itself to put an address of some attacker in there, and then it will sign the funds away. I'll take 10% or something, right? Because there's no way to stop that kind of thing. The best you can do is make it a signing device, which is actually what you think about it as. But they are not actually that, because they generate seed words for you, and they can leak messages in the signatures, usually, right? And so they're not really signing devices. Best you can do is make them signing devices. And then once they are signing devices, they still have that thing where they can just refuse to sign, a thing that doesn't give some guy attacker money. Of course, if that ever happens to you, you should not do it. You should just sit on your laurels there and say, wait, wait until technology progresses further so we can circumvent this device. What I would of course, if they do this attack, then they have to say, they have to give you bad backups, right? So you have to there would be bad backups, and you try to you use your backup for something else, and it doesn't work. Okay, so you can't restore. And so that's you'd find out like this is a ransom attack, and you basically should not pay the ransom at this point and just wait until everything has developed on the technical side of people studying what has happened, and then they can go, okay, listen, this is actually how we're going to trick this device into thinking it's being paid, or something like that, right? Or is that we're going to actually extract the key, bypass this hardware security. So this attack, this ransoming attack, is I think it's very unlikely to actually happen, because it's very. Imagine if I was to try and do this to you on hardware wallets I sold you, like it's absolutely unacceptable. Like, I'll be going to prison, and I'll probably not get any money either. I'll just really piss off a lot of people and ruin my life, sort of thing. Unless people pay the ransom. So as long as people don't pay the ransom in this situation, then reducing this to a single sign device the best attacker can do is just refuse to sign, is probably good enough for the industry. But right now we're not there. Like, our product is there, though our product is new. There are many you can be. I don't shame people at all. Be cautious about our new way of doing things. But I think that what we're doing is setting a sort of standard by which the next generation will have to live up to. Because it's actually pretty easy to get rid of this trust in the device. It's not difficult technically, like it's not risky technically. Like, there's cryptography needed to randomize the signatures so that they do not leak messages. The technology needed to make sure the device is choosing the seed words or the secret it's using randomly is very simple. It's been known out for a long time, so it's just not been integrated into the Bitcoin systems. Okay, so the Bitcoin systems is like, it initially started like, you just don't want your money on your laptop, right? So get your money off your laptop. So this other thing will generate the seed words and keep the seed words, never goes onto an internet connected device. So no one was thinking at that time, like, okay, but that device now is a trusted third party, and like it could generate bad entropy or just malicious entropy, and so it's just not integrated into the Bitcoin tech stack, and there's a lot of money on that tech stack, and it's not going to be easy to move it, right? Incrementally, right? BIP39 is one of the things that gets in the way. These are the seed word format itself is one of the things that gets in the way of actually making those seed words verifiably random for another device to contribute randomness to it. So BIP39 is probably not going away. We had to do away with BIP39 for our product. We have our own format, where your phone or your laptop can mix in randomness to it without seeing the secret, can mix in randomness to it and make sure that nothing like what happened to Coldcard can happen. So it's a big band-aid to pull off, right? Hopefully we get some momentum to move and fix these things fundamentally through the whole stack. At least we believe we should. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, there's the saying that every tragic plane crash makes air travel safer for everyone. So that's the silver lining. But like, if I'm completely honest with what's coming up for me during this conversation, as much as I'm an advocate of not your keys, not your coins, and that, everyone should and can learn self-custody, obviously it is a huge learning curve if you're coming in. But, you are able to do it if you just put your mind to it. It still sounds to me that most people don't have the skill set. Like, there's so many different attack vectors, from retirement attacks, wrench attacks, supply chain attacks, nonce attacks, that you just can't learn all that stuff. So do you almost think that self-custody is a lot harder than we make it out to be?
Well, to eliminate the device being a trusted party, like without the tools that we use to do that, because like our product is designed around that principle. If you don't design it from the ground up for that, you won't get it. And yes, you will be left with telling the user to load the seed words onto different devices and check they have the same address and all that kind of stuff. You get this advice, which is not bad advice. Just use a Linux laptop, actually. Just take a laptop, install Linux on it, and just have like Sparrow on there, and connect to the Wi-Fi just to do a transaction, and then lock, and it's fully encrypted and whatever. And that's about the bar you can do. If if you can then verify the signatures on the software and all that kind of stuff, right? It's maybe the easiest way to eliminate the trusted party aspect of it. Yeah, I think that it is too much to ask people not to have these devices and to actually interrogate the devices so that they're not trusted parties. For most people, and even like the thing is, I could say most people, it's almost everyone. Like, I mean, even people who are DIYing their seed signer, like if you see our attack on that, all I need is access to your seed signer. If I find your seed signer anyway, I can swap out the SD card and then your money's gone. Now, there are some models, right? So there are some models that you can do with seed signer or with the existing Bitcoin stack. Which is like you want to do out of 2 out of 3 multisig or something like that, and you put different seed signers in different locations, and the seed signers just stay with the seeds, and you keep them super secret, right? So you're just using your ability to hide stuff. Your ability, if you can actually just get it down to your ability to hide things, and then you remove the trust from the devices, sort of thing. If you use multisig and you have multi-vendor multisig. But that's actually like all the problem with this multi-sig solution in the traditional stack is that it leads these backups, and if you lose the backups, you actually lost all the money. So this is like another thing. It's like another non-solution to this problem is just like have one hardware wallet, you can lose all your money. So you have many hardware wallets, so it doesn't really solve the problem. And so we think it is easy though. Actually, if you just take the science and you build everything from the ground up again, and you just don't burn any incense before the gods of Bitcoin, traditional security thought, and you just redesign everything up from the ground up, you actually can make it super easy. I mean, it's not totally trivial. Like we have this, when you use our product, you're going to have several devices. So it is multi-sig, but it's true even if it was a single sig, right? So if you can use it as a single sig, it's a bit odd to do it because it doesn't have a pin number. There are no pin numbers on the devices. If you just have a single one, but even if you just have a single one, you plug it in, right, and you generate a key. Then you do this check. Like there's a check you have to check. Like 8 digits are the same on the screens. So it's like the phone has 8 digits, the device has 8 digits, and you check that the same. If you check that the same, you're good. Okay. And you do the address verification, those tasks, right? We try to make that easy on the devices. Then you're good. Okay, so that's how difficult it is. Is just checking these 8 characters are the same. And so I think most people can handle that, but not everyone. Not everyone is going to be looking at this, and checking little codes, like 8 characters of hex codes, and like making sure they're the same. It's not the iPhone experience, right? So you cannot make self-custody like this iPhone experience that's for everyone. Without removing the trusted parties in it. Okay, so if you don't have trusted parties, you can. But if you don't want any trusted parties, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be a little bit tricky. We've made it as easy as you can do it. And that means like, okay, I don't want to say no trusted party. I mean, you've got to verify the phone app and software yourself somehow. You can, like with AI, it's getting easier, right? The integrity of these software should be getting better because of the way that AI is. We can interrogate all this software in like a sovereign way without having to be software engineers with a million hours, right? And so I think in practice, you can sort of get rid of the trusted parties to a reasonable degree and then actually make it easy. It's never going to be just like the thing you'll give to your grandma necessarily, right? I don't know. I think that's the it doesn't have to be as hard as it is, but it cannot ever be so easy, right?
Oh, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. Do you think it's only a matter of time until self-custody does become an iPhone experience, or do you think it's never going to get there?
I want to say it can be an iPhone experience, but like the self-custody and there's sort of being your own bank. How much money are we talking about? That's sort of the question. You can have, just an old Android phone and own the keys on it, and you're doing self-custody, and you're probably going to be all good. You got to do the backup, but like once again, like we're talking about a lot of technical things. Once again, like people can just come to your house, and so what are you going to do about people coming to your house, right? And so if you need to geographically distribute things and ensure they're secure, from physical attackers. I mean, that's not an everyday task for an iPhone user, right? iPhone users just get happy notifications or whatever. They're not having to think about like physical locations and the security of those physical locations that often. So you got to have like put an adversarial mindset, like where do I want to put these devices? How do I want to authorize transactions? It's not like some super smooth experience thing that can be made super smooth. I think you can see like evidence of that if you look at like the BitKey thing. I mean, you end up with systems that are attackable from reduced risk, self-custody, reduced risk, but they're attackable from the company itself. They are risky in terms of physical security. If you're ever with the BitKey thing, then you can send all your money. So that's that's not acceptable. We don't find that acceptable. We don't have all your money in one place with Frostsnap ever. That's sort of our thing. Get your money out of your house. And so but having your money in your house is super convenient, right? So if you can't have your money, you're driving, right? You're going to do a drive, or you're contacting someone. Can you please sign this? You can have you can make it as easy as possible, but like you have to think carefully about it, and you're a target for physical attacks and torture and stuff. And this is not like you have to break the bubble of the iPhone generation sort of thing in order to get them to, if you want to adapt and actually hold on to your own money. This is not a new problem in history. I mean, many people tried to start banks, in their local town in the United States, right? It's just like, because banks were just like printing money, right?
Not your keys, not your coins. If you're holding Bitcoin, your self-custody setup needs to be done right. MindRacks delivers paranoia-grade security so that you can sleep at night knowing that your money is protected. Take control and secure your money the honest way. Head to mindracks.com/honest money.
And they did it. And then the criminals put Darwinian pressure on that, right? It's tricky. It's so not impossible though, right? So you just need to write the right vault, the right policies around the vault. Like, just be sensible about it, and you can self-custody, be your own bank. It doesn't have to know, with our system, you don't have to know technical things, really. You have to follow technical steps, like check this number matches here. Okay, that's not the biggest thing. That's one check. Okay, should be okay. And then you put them in different locations. Okay, that most people can handle that, but it is not the kind of normified experience like that appears in some like marketing advertisements, like anyone can do this, whatever. It's not anyone. It's people who are who want sovereignty, true real sovereignty, and don't want trusted parties for their base Bitcoin ownership. I think that's really important for me. Like, I actually had my Google account hacked, and like thinking about like what is the implications of that. Like, if I had like a smooth thing with like a Google Cloud backup or whatever, right? I think like stuff like BitKeys, they'll back up something to your Google Drive. Like, what is that thing? What's the security implications all of a sudden of my Google account being hacked? But because my money's in Frostsnap, this just like, it's not even physically in one place. It's offline, not physically in one place. Like, what? I'm very comfortable in the situation, right? They got my emails and stuff, whatever. I don't even read my emails. So it's sort of like it was a bit of a scare. I had to go and make sure that nothing bad had happened. Luckily, I think they didn't get anything from me. But that's still, it's really a good place to be, is just that comfortable. Everything is offline. Nothing is in one place. My Bitcoin is so secure that I can't even conjure it in any place, right? It just barely exists. But it is still easy to recover. Okay, so that's the difficulty. The difficulty is there's attackers. You got to think about what from their perspective. We've got the tools to do that. So you can take these tools and think about it from their perspective and do a really annoying setup for them that they really hate, right? Mm. And then you can also conquer this, guy called the fuck up fairy, right? So the fuck up fairy is going to make you lose all your money because you made some mistake or did something that you didn't understand and added a passphrase and forgot it. this guy, we don't have that stuff in our system. We say, like, listen, you've got to put those devices in different locations. There's redundancy there. You've got to tell your loved ones what to do if you pass away or become incapacitated or whatever, and what they're meant to do. And this is a serious conversation to have. Like, that's one of the interesting things about it. And one of the best feedback we get from the product is people who like finally start talking to their family about their Bitcoin because of our product. Whereas if you were to do it properly without our product, you have multi-vendor, multi-sig, and it's all like, who's going to get the Coldcard? Who's going to get this thing? Oh, the Coldcard just had a massive thing. We have to replace that with this one. You know what? So we get good feedback that they can finally talk to their wife or talk to their children and say, listen, this is the thing that you get your money back. You go to your sister together. If I pass away, and this is what you do. You just plug these into this app and it's all back. There's nothing pins to remember, passphrase stuff. We don't do that. So we do everything is just geographic distribution, secure locations. And that's not the iPhone experience, right? It's not like that will never be the iPhone experience, but it's an important experience. Like it is it's an intimate experience. It can be like you have these conversations you would never otherwise have. Like, what do I do if someone calls and like, what if I call you up at 2 a.m. and say, I need to get access to my things? You're not allowed to let me in your house. You have to have this kind of conversation. This always is outside the ease of use that we're used to in our technology. So you have to sort of just put that to the side and be a grown-up sort of thing. You have to, grow your inner grown-up and say, I'm going to have serious conversations. I am storing my money. I refuse to leave it all with a trusted third party. I need to have this conversation with you. This is what my plan is. It's not for everyone, but Bitcoin will fail if we don't have people doing this, right? That's the thing. That's the why the product exists. It's sort of Bitcoin is too important. We cannot have the holders of Bitcoin be so vulnerable.
Yep.
With having a trusted third party device in their house. They leave all their money on it, and it can be robbed from them. Entropy, whatever, can just disappear them. That's not a revolutionary force that can actually bring about good stuff in this world if we have those people so vulnerable. So
with the device, how many of those little components do you need to join to make one multisig wallet?
You should at least have 3. Whenever I start talking to someone, I try getting the information on their family setup. I often find that 4 is the best number. More redundancy, like I said, the fuck up fairy. With 2 out of 3, the fuck up fairy has to hit you once, and then you're in trouble, right? Once, or they have to hit you twice, but once, and you're at risk of being hit another time, and it's over. So I like the 2 out of 4. You have like 1 in your house. You have 1 like totally separate you don't know about with your spouse. In their family home or some other place that you don't even know about. You have 1 that you can access, maybe with a lawyer, accountant, some professional, or like a sensible friend, with good security in their house, and you like leave 1 with them. Yeah. So don't, and someone who like will be able to handle the situation when you're like knocking at their door at 2 a.m. with a guy with a knife at you, right? If that happens to be the case, right? And then you have 1 like far, far away, right? And then your spouse knows about the 1 far away, and she knows about her 1, and then you know about your 2 with your buddy, and your buddy knows that you tell you sort of tell them what they're meant to do if you are no longer there. And the recovery then is there's nothing impeding the recovery other than those people meeting and figuring out what you want, right? And if one of them's got, if you've got leave a will and you give them specific instructions, which I recommend you do. It's a weird thing to go to a friend and give them specific instructions about this device and what you're meant to do and what you're not meant to do. But it's a good conversation to have. I always found it rewarding, this conversation, actually. It's kind of interesting. It's outside the normal slop conversations, right?
Yeah. But like in that case, let's just kind of go through an example with 4 devices that are geographically distributed in case there is an attack and the attacker wants you to go to a secondary location. Is there a way to still protect yourself so you're not giving away everything at once? Like you're kind of incrementally making it harder and harder for them to get to, the full stack.
Yeah. So whenever you start to try and limit things, you usually have to involve some kind of service that will implement this program. There are people who want to do this kind of stuff like with the Bitcoin rules, so like in the Bitcoin script, or to put these kind of limits and things in. We don't have that kind of feature yet, and so we're not against it. There are obviously one of the things you can do is put the limits on the device as well. The device can say, no, you've already spent this much
like spending
Bitcoin.
limits.
But the problem is that there's backups, right? And we believe that backups are important. You must have you need to have like some exit that is not depending on the device. And so these backups always allow you to circumvent the policies. And so when you have this kind of home invasion scenario, don't know, like the question maybe you should ask is like, okay, what you might tell them is like, this is my buddy Steve, or my accountant is Larry, and he's at this address, and he's open 9 to 5, and my thing is there. There's two things they can do. They can call up Larry, right there and there, and say, just read me the seed words, right? They don't have to physically go to the other location. They can just read me the seed words. In that case, what you want to have informed Larry of is to not read the seed words, no matter what they say. And just call the police and tell them your address immediately, right? You can make a game. I mean, if Larry is up to it, you could make some deception where you're like, I'm just looking for the seed words, right? And you've already called the police, sort of thing. But I don't even think you need deception all the time. Larry can just say, listen, I've just called the police, and put down the phone. Yes, it's possible it leads to some retribution or anger, but the thing is that is what they don't want you to do, right? So you should usually be doing what they don't want you to do, especially if they're not in the situation. Like even if you're in the situation, you should be cooperative. But if the other people outside the situation, they have to call the police, because that puts the attackers in such a difficult position. Because they are in your house. They do not want to be there. If there are police coming, they are going to go. They are probably not going to leave a trail of bloodshed along the way, because they may get picked up on the way, and they do not want to go to jail. They don't want to turn this one night into jail forever. So criminals are emotional. They may get angry and this kind of thing. It is a risk, but all things added up, you should tell them not to read the seed words out. And call the police or someone who can come to the door, right? And knock on it. And so this is probably what will happen. Now they may decide to keep you there, and they'll send one guy over to Larry or whatever to do the attack on him. That's also a risk, right? So Larry's address, and they manage to social engineer them themselves, like being an Uber driver or Uber delivery or something into the Larry's place. If they hadn't counted on doing this, it's going to be very tricky for them to pull them off. Like the probability of any kind of success in any of these situations is unfathomably low, and that's why if they know that you're doing this system in the first place, they're not going to target you. But yeah, the instructions you should give those other people is do not read anything over the phone. Be sensible with people calling you. If they're saying they're my buddy or saying something, then they need to come up to your apartment. Trust that they can handle the situation, but it's not like attacking 2 houses at one night is like way harder, right? And if it's not a house, it's like an office building or something like that's not even open. It's just like the criminals just don't want to be there. They're going to exit the situation. So that's how the system will work, right? So people get concerned like, oh, if I leave with my mom, they just call up my mom and threaten my mom, and my mom will just do what they say. It's like, well, it depends who your mom is, right? So but your mom, you need to be talking to people who will follow the instructions, right? Will not just panic and read over the seed words, no matter what they get sent in pictures or whatever. So that's the basic, the way the system works. Now, there are getting out of such a situation is still just a skill that no one should ever have to exercise, right? One thing I think does help is to be able to give them some money. So if you have a Lightning wallet or something that you can give them, probably does help. This attacks are new, and I don't want to say that we have like strong conclusions on any of these things, but the key thing is don't have all your money in your house and you won't be as much of a target. Calling people out from that house or visiting other houses is such a huge risk for them because they're in your house already. They're not in a kidnapping, like that's basically kidnapping in someone else's place, right? You might as well just do a kidnapping then, right? So you do a kidnapping and you put them somewhere else, and then you're safe while you're doing the kidnapping. If you're doing a kidnapping in someone else's house, it's a no-go. It's a non-starter. It does happen. It has happened like a couple of times. Like a home invasion has turned into a kidnapping. It doesn't end well for the criminals, but it's not a great experience. But it's still better than giving them all your money. Yeah, that's what I'd say. It's never great to have a bunch of violent people in your house, and nothing will ever change that. But having your entire savings in there with them is not improving the situation at all. Like, in case you thought it was, like, not the criminal psychology is that's gonna, having it outside is actually an improvement to the situation. They want to leave. They are nervous. They want to leave that situation as fast as they can.
Man, Lloyd, this conversation is so insightful, and I'm glad we had it, but it's like, it's heavy, and to think about these things, like it's so important to do so and to be prepared before you ever need it. But it's hard. It's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard, but once you start looking at it, it relaxes you. Like, it's better to answer the question. Right? I mean, it's better not to just hope that doesn't happen to you. It's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, yeah, like anyone for any reason could come into my house and kill me at any time, right? I mean, there's no physical force field that will prevent this kind of thing other than my door or whatever. But if they're really intent on it, they will get me. But the probabilities are low. Okay, so and you're just managing low probabilities in the end, right? So that's you should explore that, demystify the situation, about what you want to come out of that situation. There's no need to throw your hands up in the air. Things are not so predictable that you can control all the situation, but you can set it up so the outcomes are not catastrophic, right? Yeah.
That's the main thing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'll obviously add all your details in the show notes so people know how to find Frostsnap and can find you on Twitter as well. Do you have any other things you'd like to share with my audience?
No. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the interview, Anya, and stay frosty out there.
Stay frosty. All right, thanks. Still here? You're one of the good ones. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. If you enjoy how we cut through the noise, consider supporting us directly via the Lightning QR code. Got a question or a thought to share? Comments are wide open. We'd love to hear from you. For bonus content and updates, follow us on socials at Honest Money Show. Until next week, take care of yourself and your money and stay decentralized.